Rolling.
Okay, good. Okay, so good afternoon. Glad to have you back in class today. As you know, yesterday we finished up our other unit, and we're going to be starting a new one today. I'm really excited about this new unit. One of the things it's really going to let us do, which I think is really cool, is we've talked a lot about words and why authors pick certain words, why writers pick certain words. We've also talked about some uh, literary approaches, like things that they use, literary devices, similes, all those different types of things, right? In the unit we're doing now, we're really going to get very granular, really get to look really closely at word choice, at punctuation, at the use of literary techniques such as similes and onomatopoeia and all those different kind of things, some of which we've talked about, some of which we're going to talk about as we move forward. Um, and in particular, today we're going to focus on tone, right? How an author uses word choice to select tone. And the unit that we're doing, and don't get all excited at once, is poetry, right? Yeah, exactly, right. That's everyone's favorite. It actually isn't everybody's favorite, right? It tends to be one that students, including myself when I was a student, was very reluctant about. It seemed kind of difficult to get into for me often as a student. Um, as I've gotten older, there are some people that I've gotten to like, such as Rumi and Ferlighetti and some other people that names we'll talk about a little bit later on. And what I have found really, really valuable for me is the fact that song lyrics, which many of us, I'm sure, I know the two of you, and certainly myself and everybody else in our class, um, you know, like song lyrics. We listen to them. Well, as time has gone on, song lyrics have become more of an accepted literary form as kind of a variant on poetry. And I think it's really been highlighted that happened when Bob Dylan most recently just won the Nobel Prize for Literature this past year. So it's really kind of validated song lyrics as a poetic and literary form. So we're going to kind of get into poetry by first looking at song lyrics. And a little bit earlier I mentioned tone, and I talked about that we're going to talk about tone today because we're going to look at how a lyricist can use the tone and the words in a song to make social commentary. Lots of different musical forms have addressed social commentary. Folk music, which Bob Dylan is a folk artist. Certainly rap music, punk music, lots of different music has made social commentary. So we're going to be kind of getting into it via that. But the first thing I want for us to do, now that I've given you a very brief introduction, when I tell you to, and I'm going to have you open to your vocabulary section in your notebook. And as you know, we write down a vocabulary word first, right? And then just kind of write down what we think it means. And then as we go across the lesson, we're going to refine our meaning. And the reason we want to do that, right? Does anybody remember why we want to make sure we refine our meaning by the end of the lesson? Anybody remember? Yes.
That way we have a clear-cut definition of what it actually is.
Yes, so that when we talk about it as a literary term, we all have something in common. We all know what we're talking about. So the term I'm going to want you to write down in just a second is tone. Right? T-O-N-E. Right? And then I want you to just take about 30 seconds to write down what you believe tone in a literary context means. Okay, about a few more seconds, so please make sure you are finishing up. And then you can just kind of set that to the side once you're done. We are going to get back to it, as I mentioned before, towards the end of the lesson. Right now, I'm handing you out the lyrics to the first song we're going to look at, and I'm going to put them up on the projector here. We're going to start, we're just going to look at the first verse and the chorus to begin, although we are going to look at the other verses. There are 4 verses altogether. We are going to look at them all before class is over. But to start, we're just going to look at these. And what I'd like you to do, I'm going to play for you the first verse and the chorus. We're not going to play any more than that. And the reason I'm playing it for you is one of the things we're also going to look at when we look at music and we think about tone and meaning and all these different things is how music impacts the lyrics. To just look at them in isolation is like just reading a play and never seeing it. Right? It's meant to have music accompany it. So we're going to make sure that we delve into that. Not so much today, but I wanted to give you a little preview of that. We're going to look at it later on in the unit as we talk a little bit more about the music. So this song, as I said, is called Dark in the Dungeon. It's by Merle Travis. Sorry about the little smear up here. But on your page, you can see that, and that's information you're going to want for later. So for right now, what I want you to do while I play is I want you to just kind of think a little bit about how this song is making you feel in terms of how the music is helping that, and also by looking at the words. What's the feeling that the author is trying to convey to you? Here we go. So, I want you to take just a moment in your own head and take a quick look again at the lyrics. You can either look at them on your sheet. Just remember looking at the first verse and the chorus and the way the music kind of reinforced. And I want you just to take 5-10 seconds, the two of you, to just talk about, how this made you feel. How this song, you think, was the emotional state of this song.
Would you like to start, Sarah?
All right. I definitely think somber in sort of in a droning way, just a kind of constant, kind of a.
Okay, about 5 more seconds,
yeah,
and
I felt
then we're going to
pretty
share
much
out.
the exact same. It was really just it was like, don't do this to yourself. You have your youth and all these other opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Just not the mind, anything but the mind.
Okay. So, I can hear a little bit as you were talking. I heard a couple different words. I heard, Sarah, can you tell me, what was the word you said at the very beginning?
Somber?
Yeah, somber, right? So I'm going to put that down here. It was definitely somber. And then, that light was bright. And then, what was your feeling about it? Can you maybe give us a word? I know you were talking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
You didn't really come up with a word or a phrase. Is there anything you could maybe think of? Or maybe...
Well, there's can I just narrow down a line?
Sure.
Quick for Sean? Would that be a thing that's allowed?
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing that in a moment. So, but you feel good about somber? Okay. Should we maybe just stick with somber?
Stick with somber?
Okay, cool. So we're going to just stick with somber then. And then what I'd like you to do, I'd love the fact that we're going back to the text, because remember, as we've talked about, we always do that. Just to say somber isn't enough. We need to make sure we're going to the text and that we're finding evidence for what it is that we feel or believe. So thinking about somber, what I'd like you to do, what we're going to actually do together, we're just going to look first just at the first verse. So I'm going to cover up the chorus for a moment. And you're going to get an opportunity to do this throughout the whole song, but I want us to look first just at this verse. And let's think, is there a word or a term in here, like a phrase, that supports this notion of it being a somber song?
Dreary?
Okay, dreary. Okay. Is there anything else?
Dark.
Dark. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So let's kind of treat them together.
Yeah.
Now let's expand on that a little bit. You both agree dark and dreary kind of work. Okay. Why? What is it about these that lead us to this notion of somber?
It's got it's the same depressive connotation.
Can you tell me a little more what you mean by that?
Both words represent the sadness that sort of sum up the song.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to maybe add to that? Agree, disagree?
I think she has it pretty much on point because when you think of dark and dreary things, you think of sadness and pain.
Okay, good. Right? And this is what we want to do now. I'm going to give you some time to work together. And what I would like for you to do is to go through utilizing the entire song, right? Because eventually we're going to be writing a little bit about this, and we want to have a lot of choices so we can make sure we choose our best examples to support our thinking. So the first step in that is going to be to go through, let's make sure I have this lined up here a little better, there we go, to go through and underline, and you want to make sure you're using a single line. You're going to do this when I tell you, a single line, because we're going to be marking up this paper with other notations at various times. So the first thing I want you to do is just using a single line to go through together and underline all the various words or phrases that you feel reinforce this notion of somber. And you can work together if you need to, and I will give you about 2 minutes to do that. So why don't you please start now?
You want to work together?
Yeah.
Okay. So black is color?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Dungeon?
Definitely. We'll just go back. Dark. Damp. It's another one that's just,
Yeah.
it's a,
Danger. Danger's one. Right?
yeah.
Yeah. The rain never falls and the sun never shines. You want to just underline that whole thing, or?
Maybe just the 3 words there.
Yeah.
Rain never falls, sun never shines.
Sounds like a plan, man. We already did dungeon.
Labor.
Labor his life away. Just gonna underline labor and life away.
Dope and a drunkard.
Okay, you have about 1 minute left.
Demons of death.
No, yeah, that's one.
That is definitely one. Buried alive.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. My body
We
will.
will blacken.
I guess we'll underline that one
Yeah.
and turn to coal. Pity?
Yeah.
I feel like that's all of it.
Okay, so you guys seem to be kind of through. You took a little less than 2 minutes, so that's awesome. So we're just going to move on. So what I'd like to do next is, I'm just grabbing my notes here, right, is we're going to join together as a whole group and just kind of underline some of them together. So let's kind of walk through from the first verse all the way down. So we'll just take turns if you just want to go back and forth. And I'm going to underline them down here. So whichever one of you wants to start, doesn't really matter.
Black is the coal.
Okay.
A dark skin.
Okay, the whole
Done.
phrase?
Yeah, dark
Okay.
is a dungeon.
And damp as well.
Just the word damp?
Yeah, just the word damp.
Okay.
Rain never falls.
Sun never shines.
Okay.
Labor.
Labor. So we're in the next,
Yeah,
the next
next
verse
verse.
now? Okay.
We
Great.
forgot about danger in the chorus. In the chorus.
Ah, okay. I was
yeah,
wondering about that. I was
danger.
gonna,
Yeah, we forgot about danger.
we were gonna come back to that. So I'm glad you picked that up, right?
Yeah, I was looking at my paper.
Right. Definitely a danger there. Right. Okay. So let's go back to verse 2 then. Last thing we did was labor.
Life away.
Dope and drunkard.
Drunkard.
And then verse 3, we did demons of death.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Same, actually.
Right. And also, what's interesting about that, and we actually see it a few times in here, just kind of refresh our memory for a moment. We have, like, with demons of death, dark is the dungeon, dark dreary. Anyone remember what literary technique what we call that?
Oh,
If you need to, you can look at the chart hanging on the wall. I know we don't really have a chart hanging on the wall. Sorry about that. Alliteration.
Alliteration.
Right.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
I know. It's the end of summer. Your brains are still a little foggy. But we're going to talk more about those kinds of things, but I just wanted to kind of bring it back into our mind. Some more? Any more in verse 3?
Buried alive.
Okay.
And I'm going to verse 4,
Uh-huh.
and it's my body will blacken.
Yes. Right. Oop. And anything else?
Pity.
Pity. Okay, good. All right. So now what I'd like you to do, because when we choose quotes, like once we get to our writing, you're going to have to choose a minimum of 2 quotes to put into your writing from the text. We always want to make sure, right, that we use ones that are really, really powerful and that we are able to explain, that we understand how it supports, in this case, our notion that the tone is a somber one in this particular song. So what I'd like you to do is take about 30 seconds in your own mind and think about just one of these that we have underlined, right? Either a word or a phrase, right? And then be prepared to share with the whole group how you think that reinforces the notion of somber, why you chose that one. So just take about 30 seconds in your own mind to do that. Okay, just about 10 more seconds. Okay, so at this point, you certainly should have selected the one you choose and feel pretty comfortable. You can talk about it. Which one of you would like to go first?
Do you or?
Sure.
Okay.
I chose the last line in verse 1.
The last line in verse 1. So, black is the coal?
Yeah.
And why did you choose that? Why do you think that reinforces this idea?
Because it's sort of the idea of that line kind of gives an effect of losing yourself to the cold.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How do you think it does that? Because it seems to me like you're talking about more than just this phrase. You're talking about kind of the whole line now,
yeah.
which is fine. But I want you to expand on your thinking. How does it do that? How is it doing what you said?
Because it's showing a transformation where you
Love that word.
where you sort of become what you wish to not become.
Okay. Why would you wish not to become? So you're basically. Let me just tell me if I'm wrong here. But so you're saying that this part, right, is telling us that your blood is transforming into this. Why is transforming into this bad?
Because it's dangerous. It's a.
I want to focus for a moment. I want to focus your attention to this word. Right? Because that appears a couple times. And think about, in literary terms, what that word often means.
Dark and evil.
Yeah. Right? Is that a good thing?
No.
No. Right? So I think that was really good. And I love how you took not just the phrase, but you kind of put it in the context of this entire line, moving us to a deeper meaning. Right, beyond just, it's black and evil, but we're transforming. I thought that was really great. And how about for you? Which one did you focus on?
I chose my favorite line.
Okay.
I'm just like that. I chose the Demons of Death line.
Okay.
Because I felt like it held a lot to the song as a total, like as a whole. Because the Demons of Death, it's like saying that you're constantly living your life on this edge, like this precipice, if you will, where you're not sure if you're going to die, and you're always in this constant fear of like just everything ending and something going wrong and you getting stuck, or you like just becoming this thing that like your body just like decaying down there and nobody knowing, or like something bad happening.
Okay, can you point to me, I like where you're going with this, can you point out to me what it is in that line that one of the things you said early on was you're always living on the precipice, on the edge, you never know. What is it, what word or phrase in that line kind of reinforces that idea? Because certainly the Demons of Death, right, very good,
Yeah.
right, no question,
Yeah.
right, and then it actually continues if you look into the
Buried
next line,
alive.
and kind of really pulls that in, this idea that, you know, the slate can just crack in one moment and that's it, right? So good. So there are two more short things that I want to do before we start moving into the writing assignment. And I'm going to pose a question for you, and I want you two to talk about this. I'll give you about 1 minute, and then we're going to share out. Okay. So this is clearly a positive or negative view of mining.
Negative.
Right.
Negative.
Okay, it's dangerous. Right. This is not a good job. Right. Which is his social commentary. This is a hard job, or part of the social commentary. And I can't remember if we referenced this early in the conversation, but if we look here at the first line, right? Who is he speaking to here? Who's his intended audience?
The young people who are going to become miners.
Right. If this is such a dangerous profession, why does he feel the need to warn them?
Because it's overglorified?
You two talk.
Wow,
Take
sorry.
take about
Sorry.
30 or 60 seconds, right? I'll give you 60 seconds. Think about this question. Why does he feel the need to warn it? And build on the idea that you were thinking of, that you expressed, and find a phrase or phrases maybe in here that kind of reinforce your idea that you have about why he needs to warn. And it might be a phrase or phrases that we've already looked at, but it could possibly be something new. So I'm going to give you about a minute to do that.
Okay. So should I just start since I already started?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's overglorified because if you look in it, because they always say that they're going to find gold and all this stuff. And, like, if you go further, lust for the lure of the mine.
Yeah.
And then as you're in here, like, the habit will seep into your soul for this greed and this, like, envy of, like, gold.
And in the second line there, dude, it's warning about this isn't a good idea to seek your fortune here.
But that's what most people believe mining is.
Right. Makes a lot of sense.
You want to expand?
All right, I'm going to cut you off there because I mean I've heard a couple of really good things, so we're gonna move on. Would one of you want to share out just what you had said to the larger group?
Well, I had said that it overglorifies mining. Like, mining is overglorified, and especially, like, back in the day, it was overglorified because everybody thought they were gonna, like, find gold and, like, they were all gonna make it big. And he, like, even has to warn them in the second line of verse 1 to, like, not seek your fortune there. And, like, he talks about how the habit will seep into your soul, which is the next line. Sorry if I'm moving too fast.
That's okay, no?
And then if you go...
I want to stop you for a
Okay.
second, though. First, I want to make a slight
Go for it.
correction in accuracy.
Yes.
Here he is clearly talking about coal mining. They're not looking for gold, right? And this may be something that you may or may not talk about in your social studies class, I'm not sure. But coal mining still was fairly lucrative,
Yeah.
and in some areas the only
Yeah.
way to really make a decent living. So just a historical correction, these aren't gold miners, these aren't prospectors. These folks are looking just for coal, but still the same idea is still there, right? That you were talking about. And Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add? Any phrases that jumped out at you?
Which you mentioned earlier, definitely a man will have lust for the lure of the mine.
Right. And as we know, it is very dangerous in spite of that. For me, one of the lines I'll just kind of tell you that really is the line actually before that really sticks out to me, because what I find interesting of this line, like a fiend with his dope and a drunkard his wine, is that, you know, people who are addicted to dope, various drugs, or wine, they often know it's not good for them. And they see what it does to them and their family and communities, but they just can't get away from it. And coal can be a similar type of thing in communities. So awesome. So one last thing before we go in, I'd like for you to turn back to your definition page for tone. And I want you to take, given all the things we've been talking about in relation to tone, I want you to take 15 seconds, look at the definition you wrote, and see if there's anything you want to change about it. Anything you want to add or take away. and then we're going to share out to make sure we're all kind of in the same place. Okay, good. Okay, so Sarah, could you share out yours for us as a whole?
The feeling a song sets up to provide its message.
Okay, you agree, disagree, anything you'd want to add?
I put underlyingly, because it doesn't all the time, it's not really always in your face when you like listen to like a song or like you read poetry. Sometimes they use like tricky word choice, and it's not always like in your face, but it's always there.
Right. So one of the things we might want to add then to the definition that you had, and is, you know, how do they do this?
Mm-hmm.
They do it through word choice or various literary devices. So we may want to add that to our definition. I mean, today we talked mostly about word choice. We did mention alliteration a little bit. But as we move forward, we will talk a little bit more about how they use other literary devices to help establish this tone. All right, awesome. I thought what we did today so far was really great. Now, as you know, we all have a written assignment at the end, usually, of much of what we do. So I'm going to hand this out to you there. I'm going to hand this out to you.
Thank you.
And, okay, I thought I had a overhead copy, but I don't seem to have it with me. So that's okay. You have a copy you can look at. I just want to go over the directions for this rather quickly. Sarah, I'm going to look over your shoulder if I could here just to remind me. Okay, so we're just going to write a short paragraph, right? And as we do with most of our writing assignments, we always start with some pre-writing to make sure we get our thoughts together. We've already done some of that through the conversation we've had, but you're also going to do some formal written pre-writing. So what's going to be the first two things that you're going to put down in your pre-writing that you're going to make sure appear in your paragraph?
The title and the author's name.
Right, and why is it important that we put them anytime we write about a piece of literature?
References can be made from outside or readers.
Right. Someone might want to grab that piece and look at it and see what you're doing. So you want to make sure they know what you're talking about. Excellent. What's the next thing that we're going to make sure to do?
To inform the audience of the overall tone of the piece.
Right. And what's next we're going to make sure we do?
Write a statement that tells the author's perspective.
Right. And then to support that, we're going to do 2 quotes, right? A minimum of 2 quotes. And if you look actually up outside of the box, you'll see what do we want to make sure about our 2 quotes, as we always do whenever we use quotes.
It's powerful.
Yes.
And can write about how it reinforces your ideas.
Right. So now a lot of that we've done. We've talked about a lot of this, so you should have a lot of ideas already rolling in your head, right? So what I'm going to want you to do is you're going to start with the pre-writing. Once you're done with the pre-writing, you're just going to raise your hand, and I have some of our draft paper that we always use. And if you remember, right, we skip every other line on our draft paper. And why do we do that?
To make room for revisions.
Yeah. Right? So once you have all your pre-writing done, raise your hand. I'm just going to come over, take a quick glance at it, and then I'll give you some paper, and you can get started on the assignment, right? And I'll be wandering around class to answer questions and help you as we go along. So you have what we talked about, you have the stuff you underlined here, you have your notes, your directions, and I'll give this to you when you're ready. All right? Okay, so please get started. And I think we're going to call that a wrap, yeah.